I was born to preach the gospel. I was born to preach the gospel. I was born to preach the gospel. And I sure do love my job, yeah. I was born to preach the gospel. I was born to preach the gospel. I'm born to preach the gospel. And I sure do love my job, yeah. Yes, I really love my job. I'm a disciple that makes disciples that makes disciples. Oh, I'm a disciple that makes disciples that makes disciples. I'm a disciple that makes disciples that makes disciples. Yes, I'm a disciple that makes disciples that makes disciples. I'm a disciple that makes disciples that makes disciples. I'm a disciple that makes disciples that makes disciples. Get firmly rooted. So let's get firmly rooted. Let's get firmly rooted. So let's get firmly rooted. Oh, I'm a disciple that makes disciples that makes disciples. I'm a disciple that makes disciples that makes disciples. I'm a disciple that makes disciples that makes disciples. Let's get firmly rooted. Firmly rooted. Let's get firmly rooted. Yeshua, 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 Yeshua. I'm a disciple that makes disciples that makes disciples. We're disciples that make disciples that make disciples. We are disciples that make disciples that make disciples. We are disciples that make disciples that make disciples. Let's keep firmly rooted. Firmly rooted.
Hey, good morning, everyone, and happy Thursday morning. Pastor Tom Donnelly, Firmly Rooted Ministries, and it is time to strengthen our roots. We've got Beverly in the house. We got Jennifer in the house. Karen's in the house. And Bob Ayotte had to leave. He had some work to get done. It is good to have all of you on board. Looks like a beautiful day today. I've got to get some work done around the house, get a few things repaired, but hope to get on a boat sometime soon and be on the water. Today, Common Denominator, and today and tomorrow, Common Denominator is having a school district, Oxford School District Employee Appreciation Day. And so we sent out a promotion to all of them that they can have a free drink, coffee. They have just done the yeoman's work this year in keeping our building open and letting our kids learn face-to-face if that's the way the parents wanted to have it happen. And so we're going to do a little thing to appreciate them. Pamela C., good morning. Bert Reggiani, good morning. Emily, Nancy, and Abby, good morning. Good to have you. Anne-Marie, good morning. Great to have you in the meeting yesterday. Cindy Siebert, so glad that your surgery was successful, and just praying everything works out well and we get to see you this weekend. So let's get at our reading. There's not a lot. There's a lot of words because it's trying to tell you historically what took place. Yesterday we left with the warnings to Paul. Don't go to Jerusalem. Don't go to Jerusalem. Don't go to Jerusalem. Something bad is going to happen. Hey, Jackie, and hey, Vivian. something bad is going to happen if you go to Jerusalem. And we all know what Paul's response was. Look, it doesn't matter. I'm in God's hands, and whatever happened is going to happen. I'm willing to even die for the gospel. All right. So he finally gets there. He finally gets to Jerusalem, and the church has this great idea. They think to themselves, Paul, we know they hate you. We know that you've got a bullseye on your back. We know that they're saying all sorts of lies about you, teaching false theology. And so what we want you to do is go into the temple. We want you to basically make a vow, take a couple other Jewish guys with you, shave your hair off your head, and make a vow, and let everybody see that you haven't desecrated the Jewish religion, you haven't desecrated the temple, you haven't desecrated theology, that you're not teaching anything different than we Christians here in Jerusalem. And they mention the fact that thousands of people by now have come to the faith. 30 years into the ministry, and we've got thousands and thousands and thousands of believers. Well, what we find is it doesn't work. It doesn't work. Even though Paul and all the Christians do the right things, they hit all the right buttons, they check all the right boxes, there's a demonic influence inside of Jerusalem that's no different than the demonic influence that attacked Jesus. And all of a sudden, people are screaming and yelling, "Men of Israel, help us. This man who teaches all men everywhere against our people and our law in this place." And besides, he brought Greeks into the temple, right? He brought Gentiles into the temple, which was, they're just lying. The enemy always lies. The enemy always uses violence. It's something that we should be thinking about all the time. If violence is being used in our society, it's Satan. And violence is used because they justify the violence by their lie, which they call truth. But at any rate, they now accuse Paul of teaching false theology, bringing Greeks into the temple, defiling the holy place, and now everybody's in an uproar. Everybody is screaming and yelling. They seize Paul, they drag him from the temple, and immediately the gates are shut, and Roman soldiers have to step in, and all of a sudden they bind him in chains, and just like the prophet said, right, his hands and feet were bound, and he's not even there a day, and he's already, the prophecies are being fulfilled, and everyone's nightmare, their worst thought is happening in front of them as this massively powerful evangelist and teacher of the truth is being arrested, falsely accused, no differently than Jesus. Some of the crowd shouted one thing, some shouted another. Since the commander could not get at the truth, isn't that interesting? So because the commander could not get at the truth, he ordered Paul to be taken into the barracks. If ever you're living in a time period where you cannot get at the truth, you just know somebody's lying, you gotta be praying that light shines into dark places and evil is exposed, because you can't tell where the truth is. I believe in much of the last modern history, especially in the last few years, it just doesn't sound right. It doesn't seem right. But everybody's saying, yes, it is. Yes, it is. And then you grow up in a world of censorship and you start censoring people because according to your opinion, they're lying. And this is what happens when the enemy of this world comes into contact with God's kingdom, that all of a sudden lies have to be spoken because that's true. And violence has to be used because you got to try to do something to pull it out of God's hands, right? When they reached the steps, the violence of the mob was so great, He had to be carried by the soldiers. The violence of the group became so great that the soldiers had to carry Paul into the barracks. And the crowd that followed kept shouting, "Away with him," right? Similar to crucify him, crucify him. What do we learn? What we learn is the kingdom of this world is at war with God's kingdom. What do we learn? Satan's not creative, and he always uses the same angles. He only has a few, and the one thing he does is lie. If you want to be victorious over Satan's attacks, understand the difference between truth and falsehood, and don't buy the lie. It's easier said than done. And know that ultimately, if the evil doesn't get its way, it will use violence to get its way. It will use violence. But I will tell you that even killing Jesus didn't make him a victim. He became a victor. See, the church doesn't lose. The church will not lose. The gates of hell cannot stand against the movement of the church. And so, one way or the other, we are more than conquerors through him who loved us. We just have to stay focused on God's kingdom and his will for our lives. And so, here we are. We can ask the questions of why, but we're going to see that Paul is going to do some amazing things even while in jail. And the church is going to continue to flourish and continue to grow. And that's the key. That just because we're facing suffering doesn't mean God's given up on us or left us. It's actually when he presses in and he's closest to us. All right, that's what I have for you. Let's see who else popped in here. Vivian Davis, good morning. Cindy says we're planning to come this Sunday. Good. Nikki Chasen, good morning. Roger Fondorf down at Firmly Rooted Greendale, good morning. All right. Have a great day. Make it a Firmly Rooted day. And may someone see Jesus in us today. Peace.